Trump on the dollar? The quiet shift changing America's political system. Donald Trump's attempt to brand the American state looks less like vanity than a quiet experiment in rewriting the grammar of the republic. What if the next US dollar bill carried the name of a sitting president, not after history judged him, not decades later, but while he was still in power, which sounds symbolic. Harmless, even ceremonial. But in political systems, symbols are rarely just symbols, sometimes they are signals, and sometimes they are warnings. In the late 20th century, America exported hamburgers, aircraft carriers, and constitutional restraint. In the early 21st, it may yet export something else, the spectacle of a president trying to trademark the state. Donald Trump has spent half a century turning his surname into a logo. Towers bore it. Jets bore it. Casinos bore it. Even steaks bore it. Now, in a gesture that is at once symbolic, theatrical, and oddly revealing, his name is poised to appear on American currency to commemorate the country's 250th anniversary. The development is not merely unusual. It is diagnostic. It suggests that the most distinctive political innovation of Mr. Trump's presidency is not policy but branding, and branding, once applied to the machinery of government, behaves very differently from branding applied to real estate. A republic is not a hotel chain, modern states are built on impersonality. Offices endure. Individuals rotate. Symbols are meant to outlive the people who temporarily inhabit them. This is why American political culture long treated the placement of a living president's name on national institutions as faintly indecorous, something between bad taste and constitutional mischief. Mr. Trump has never accepted this distinction. During his business career, attaching his name to physical objects served as a force multiplier. A building with Trump on the facade was not merely property, it was narrative. It promised luxury, dominance, and recognition. It converted architecture into advertisement, transplanted into government. However, the same instinct produces a different effect. It converts administration into spectacle, and the presidency into a platform for legacy construction in real time rather than after historical verdict. That shift matters more than the lettering on any single banknote. The logic of personalization. In the traditional American political imagination, institutions legitimize leaders. In Mr. Trump's political imagination, leaders legitimize institutions. This inversion explains a pattern that might otherwise look like eccentricity: policy initiatives buying presidential branding, federal spaces displaying presidential imagery, cultural institutions renamed through loyal boards, commemorative currency featuring a living executive. Individually, each step is small. Collectively, they form something recognizable: the gradual personalization of the administrative state. In business, such behavior signals confidence. In politics, it signals something closer to authorship. Mr. Trump is not merely governing the republic. He is editing it, the quiet taboo he is breaking. America has always honored presidents after death. It has almost never honored them during rule. George Washington appears on the dollar because he declined kingship. Abraham Lincoln appears on the $5 bill because he preserved the Union. Franklin Roosevelt appears on the dime because he reshaped the modern state. In each case, commemoration followed closure. The sequence matters. To place a living president's signature on national currency, even symbolically, is to reverse the order: legacy first, judgment later. This is not illegal. But American constitutional culture has always depended less on law than on restraint. Its durability rests on habits. Habits, unlike statutes, can erode quietly. Branding as statecraft. Mr. Trump's defenders argue that attaching his name to commemorative initiatives merely reflects political reality. He is, after all, the central actor of his era. Why should the anniversary of the Republic not bear the signature of its most recognizable contemporary figure? Yet the question misunderstands the nature of American symbolism. The dollar is not simply currency. It is architecture printed on paper. It is continuity, neutrality, and permanence. It signals that markets trust the system more than its occupants. Insert a living political figure into that symbolic ecosystem and the message shifts subtly. The dollar begins to look less like a vessel of institutional memory and more like a billboard of executive presence. markets will not panic. Bond yields will not spike. But the grammar changes, and grammar is how legitimacy travels, a familiar script elsewhere. Across the 20th century, regimes from Moscow to Pyongyang discovered that saturating public space with the image of the leader helped fuse state identity with personal authority. Portraits hung in classrooms. Statues occupied plazas. Slogans traveled faster than legislation. America, by contrast, built prestige through abstraction. Its symbols were deliberately anonymous: the eagle, the Constitution, the flag, the dollar. This anonymity was not accidental. It was strategic. It ensured that the republic belonged to citizens rather than rulers. Mr. Trump's innovation is not to import authoritarian imagery wholesale. It is subtler than that. He is evaluating whether democratic symbolism can be personalized without becoming illiberal. The answer stays unclear. The loyalty economy of modern Washington, another feature of the Trump era, explains the proliferation of presidential branding, institutional selection. Political systems reward loyalty differently depending on their structure. In parliamentary systems, loyalty flows upward through parties. In presidential systems, it flows outward through appointments. Mr. Trump has made clear that praise is a currency. Those who provide it receive proximity. Those who resist it lose access. Over time, this produces boards, committees and agencies inclined to adopt presidential symbolism not because they must, but because they predict advantage. Thus, the renaming of institutions does not require instruction. It requires expectation, and expectation, once normalized, becomes culture. The international audience, foreign capitals watch symbolic change in America with particular care. European allies interpret personalization as unpredictability. Chinese analysts interpret it as convergence with strong leader governance models. Russian commentators interpret it as confirmation that liberal institutions are less exceptional than advertised. None of these interpretations alter American power directly. But they reshape the narrative environment in which that power runs. In geopolitics, feeling compounds faster than policy. The dollar as theater, currency occupies a special place in national storytelling. It circulates constantly. It crosses borders silently. It reaches citizens who ignore speeches and treaties alike. For decades, the dollar's imagery has communicated stability, founders, monuments, continuity. It reminded the world that America's strength derived not from personalities but from procedures. Adding a contemporary president's name, even in commemorative form, turns the dollar briefly into theater. It tells a different story, that leadership itself can be part of the brand. Whether this strengthens or weakens confidence depends on whether observers interpret it as celebration, or centralization. Not a rupture, yet, it would be melodramatic to describe these developments as constitutional transformation. America is still a republic. Courts function. Elections occur. Opposition survives. Institutions resist, but political systems rarely change through collapse. They evolve through symbolic adaptation. Mr. Trump's presidency is less a revolution than a stylistic shift, from institutional anonymity toward executive visibility, from procedural legitimacy toward personal narrative, from inherited symbolism toward manufactured legacy. He has not rewritten the Constitution, he has begun rewriting its aesthetic, the experiment underway. The most striking feature of the moment is its ambiguity. No one, not markets, allies or historians, yet knows whether presidential branding of the state will fade with its author or persist as precedent. If it fades, it will resemble a historical curiosity, a brief episode of theatrical governance. If it persists, it will mark the beginning of something larger, the transformation of the American presidency into a platform not merely for governing the republic but for signing it. Either way, the dollar, once the quietest of American symbols, has become unexpectedly talkative, and it now is speaking in gold letters.